first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Please be seated.
The day of miracles is past. Mythbuster number 6. It was about 1950. It was the day after Christmas. I was about 5, 6 years old, and my buddy Robert, who lived 3 houses down, called and said, "Hey, want to come over to my house? I got an electric train for Christmas, and we have it in the basement, and it's just working great. Want to come over and play with it?" Yeah. And so I went over to his house. Well, my mother bundled me up first. This is, of course, in Minnesota, and so I had my parka on and boots and everything up, because I was going to walk 3 houses down. But when it's 32 below, you need to be warm. So I went through that process, and when I got to David's house, I had to stand in the hallway and take all this off. And I noticed in the living room something that looked something like this. Can we get it up there? Okay. Actually, it looked better than that. But anyway, happened to be a television. And that's how they look way back in the olden days. And I had never seen one before. Remember, this is back in Minnesota. My parents were poor. We couldn't afford one. But Robert's parents were a bit more wealthy. And there was this box, and I saw this movement, these characters moving on there. I was totally fascinated by it. And I remember going over and looking at it. And I can tell you this morning exactly what I saw. And there was a man standing there, had a 3-piece suit on, looked like he was about 50, had gray hair, and he was selling suits. Isn't that funny? I can remember the first time I saw TV. And I looked at that, and I remember going up to the television and touching it, and Mrs. Heedy was, "Oh, don't touch it, don't touch it." Oh, well, you know, and I said, "How do they do that?" And she said, "I don't know. It's a miracle." I don't think so. Now, a while back, I don't know if you saw on the news, the pot-bellied pig that was in the house that night and could smell smoke. And the pig went from room to room and woke up all the family, and they all got out to safety before the house burned down. And when they put this on the news, he was called the miracle pig. Is that a miracle? I don't know about that. Take this scenario. Let's say you're raising a teenage boy, and he's totally enveloped in athletics, whatever. So, and he couldn't care at all about his studies. So he plays football, and any sport that comes along, that's it. His studies, are put aside, and so things become serious, and you meet with the counselor, and it doesn't seem like it's helping that much. And then the next report card comes out, and his looks like this. And you look at it, and what do you say? It's a miracle. Now, I've raised that kind of a boy, and that is a miracle, if that were to happen. Never happened to us. But that's pretty close to a miracle. But really, when you consider it, it's not a miracle. For the definition of a miracle is simply this: an interruption in nature. There has to be something more than just getting A's. There's something in nature, some law that is suspended, and that becomes a miracle. For example, would this be a miracle? We have a fall, a picture of fall, and then it moves into spring, or winter, then into spring, and then into summer. So you have fall, winter, spring, summer. Fall, winter, spring, summer. As that keeps happening over and over again, is that a miracle? Well, not really. It's simply one of God's laws in nature. So you can't call that a miracle. Obviously, the creation and everything, but that sequence, that law of nature that just keeps going in that same sequence is not considered a miracle. But let's say this happens. Let's begin with fall, and then after fall you go to, let's say, winter. How would that be? Can we get that one up there? So you go from fall. Well, let's go from fall to summer, and then summer to spring, and then spring to winter. So you have fall, summer, then to spring, and winter. You get up one morning, it's fall, and you get up one morning, all of a sudden, it's summer. And then some periods goes on, you wake up, and all of a sudden it's spring, and then a few weeks later you wake up and it's winter. Would that be a miracle? Well, yeah, it's an eruption in the law of nature. So that indeed would be a miracle, not just what we see it now, but if it changes. Or take, for example, the fact that a miracle means a suspension of some laws. Here we have an airplane, and the airplane is fighting against gravity. So gravity comes down. That's the law of gravity. Then you have the airplane following the law of aerodynamics. And let's say as the airplane goes along, the law of gravity ceases. So what would happen? I mean, you'd have better than a Disneyland ride. You'd be floating around back and forth, and people would be coming up. Would that be a miracle? Well, yeah. It's an interruption in the law of gravity. So you have to be really careful. Some examples, for example, of miracles would be, first of all, improper examples, let's say. Let's say that you're in Monterey, and you're looking, standing by the ocean, and you're watching a sunset. It is absolutely beautiful. And I think if you ever go there, you know, people get out of their cars and they watch this beautiful sunset. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And if you listen, likely you'll hear someone say, wow, that was beautiful. Wow, that was a miracle. That was a miracle of beauty. And of course, it's not a miracle. It happens every day. It's just part of the law of nature. You can't say that it's a miracle. Or let's say, for example, as you look at this parking lot, that this is the parking lot, let's say, from Costco. And when you came that morning, it was half full. That would be a miracle, right? Okay, so miracle number one happens. It's only half full. You go in and you shop for a period of time, and you come out and your bill is less than $100. Miracle again. And then when you go out, you're able to find your car immediately, even though twice as many cars are there. Do you have any problem at Costco finding your car? I get so confused. And yesterday we were there, and one of the people from our church was wandering around trying to find her car. And I don't see her here this morning. She may still be looking over there. I mean, a miracle to find your car. Now you say, well, there's 3 miracles. There was only car was half full, the lot. When I came, I didn't spend over $100. And when I went out, it was full, but I found my car. Well, yeah, it's sort of a miracle. For me, it would be sort of a miracle, but not really. Here are some proper miracles. The virgin birth. You can see that is totally changed as far as how nature brings about birth. So that would be a miracle. When Jesus turned the water into wine, which we read about this morning, that would be a miracle. And the raising of Lazarus, raising a dead man, that would be a miracle. So those are proper miracles. And before we move on further, I wanted to just to look at atheism in relation to Christianity and miracles. You know, here's a picture of a man. Do you recognize this gentleman? Anybody? Einstein. And Einstein was basically an atheist. And the atheists are sad people because nothing exciting really happens since they don't believe in any kind of a miracle. But this is what he wrote.